Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to be the final film of the sequel trilogy that will offer many different revelations that will lead to saga-wide implications in this story by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, what's really intriguing about Episode 9 is that we do know that at the end of the day, this film is really going to be, well, a revelation movie. It's going to have a lot of twists and turns that'll really change how fans view certain pieces of the franchise, especially in the originals. Now, what's really intriguing about this movie is, of course, what's going to be utilized in the third act of this film. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this movie, and when it all comes down to one of the sequences in the third act, this is where things begin to get very interesting for Episode 9. Now, specifically, shot descriptions consisting of a moment in the third act of the film, where it's described that both Rey and Kylo Ren are in a standoff against the Dark Acolyte, who is under control by the Sith spirit of Sidious. It's said that one of the scenes is set to feature Luke Skywalker in the form of a Force ghost, where he is said to appear from the netherworld of the Force when he confronts Palpatine as he fights Kylo and Rey. It's said that this is when Palpatine's Sith spirit reveals himself in the form of an abstract red cloud, with the strange face of Palpatine at the end, looking at Skywalker's Force ghost. It's said that while Palpatine does this, is that the Dark Acolyte shifts his consciousness back to his own mind, where now the spirit of Sidious is said to briefly confront Luke's Force ghost, where one of the sequences is said to involve a moment where Luke is able to absorb some of Palpatine's energy from his spirit that weakens it. The shot is said to deeply resemble what Kevin Flynn did from Tron Legacy, where he bonds with Clue at the very end of the film. The scenery is said to be very dramatic, where Luke's Force ghost is a sparkly blue, and Sidious and his spirit is a fiery red with smoke. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, this is said to be a scene where both sides of the spiritual realm, the netherworld and the spiritual world, combine, where we have both Luke and Sidious face to face once more, the very first time that Luke and Palpatine are seeing each other ever since Return of the Jedi. And what I love so much about this is that this really does bring us back to Return of the Jedi, where Luke Skywalker witnessed the death of Palpatine, and now Luke has to literally confront Palpatine. So, what I like about this also is that this is said to be the very moment in which Palpatine's Sith spirit reveals itself, where we get to see the actual spirit in its entirety. What that means, essentially, is that we will actually see what the spirit looks like. Now, the spirit is said to not be in human form per se, like having arms and legs, etc., but it's just a shapeless red cloud with Palpatine's face somewhere at the very end of that cloud, that is said to be a fiery red with smoke. Now, while this scene happens, Luke's Force Ghost is best described as being a sparkly blue. So this could very well mean that Luke's Force Ghost has more energy than the Force Ghosts of Yoda and Obi-Wan and Anakin, for all we know. Now, the other thing that I want to go over is how Luke Skywalker is said to use a specific power against Palpatine's spirit, where he is able to absorb the energy from Palpatine himself to weaken it, where the shot itself is said to deeply resemble of what Disney did in the movie Tron Legacy. I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but it's said that the very part where Luke absorbs energy from Palpatine's Sith spirit is said to resemble what Kevin Flynn did with the character Clue at the very end of Tron Legacy. So, on top of all of this, we do know that Episode 9 is really going to feature, by far, one of the most iconic moments in the Skywalker saga, which is, of course, where Luke and Palpatine will be in the same exact scene together, while both Rey and Kylo have nothing to do but watch this actually happen. Now, the thing about this is this. We do know that this film is going to have a lot of dark elements to it that are said to be darker than that of Revenge of the Sith, which really is a big deal. You know, the fact that there are going to be elements in this film darker than that of Revenge of the Sith really is big, because to me, I'm not quite sure if you could really do that, where in Episode 3 you had Anakin and the younglings, and you had Anakin burning and being rebuilt as Darth Vader, all those different things, right? The death of Padme, very dark. So, I'm not quite sure if it will add up to Revenge of the Sith, but that's exactly what JJ is aiming to do with this movie in order to really make it feel very dramatic. Now, as far as everything else goes, the scenery is said to be very dark and grim, where the netherworld and the spiritual realm actually come face to face, between both Luke and Palpatine, of course. Now, what I like so much about this is that this isn't necessarily a lightsaber duel between both Luke and Palpatine, obviously. This is more or less Luke using the ability of being a Force Ghost to combat against a Sith spirit. And this actually comes from an original idea for The Last Jedi that never made it to the final cut of the movie. Rian Johnson originally had this idea where Luke on Ahch-To was being visited by a Sith ghost. Same exact thing there, is that Sith ghost was red and pretty much having smoke around it. But, however, in that scenario, it was in the shape of an actual human. It had arms and legs and a head. But in this scenario, Palpatine's Sith spirit is nothing like a human, or humanoid, whatever have you. It's just a shapeless red cloud. So, very interesting, I gotta say. Anyways, guys, I would love to hear each and every one of you and what you have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.